Hey everyone, before we dive into this story, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Now, let's get started. My name is Lila Sterling. Until that fateful evening, I was certain of my identity. I was the eldest daughter of a prominent figure, a subtle letdown adorned in elegant stilettos. At 34, I worked as an art conservator in Chicago, carrying the scent of lacquer and ancient tomes, while my family exuded wealth and tradition. But at my father's extravagant 70th birthday celebration, my world unraveled. He lifted his glass, flashed a smile for the cameras, then struck my face with such force that the room fell silent. "You're a stain on our family's legacy, Lila," he bellowed. "I'm erasing you from the $230 million estate." Gasps echoed, phones were raised, flashes erupted. Some chuckled, others recorded, and I, mortified and shaking, fled into the icy Chicago night, tears smudging my makeup. The next morning, a knock came at my door, not from my father, but from 3 lawyers with a revelation that would change everything. When my father's hand met my cheek, the sound rang through the ballroom like a thunderclap. Crystal flutes clinked, then silence took hold. Only the faint hum of the chandelier lingered as whispers stirred. Cameras rose. Guests smirked behind their drinks. Did he really just? My God, he hit her. My breath caught, the room spinning beneath my feet. My father, Charles Sterling, a real estate titan, stood imposing in his tailored Italian suit, his steely eyes colder than the marble columns around us. "You think you can disgrace me, Lila," he snarled. "A daughter who tinkers with old paintings instead of leading the empire. You're a failure." "Dad, please," I stammered, every stare cutting into me. "Not here. This is precisely the place," he roared. "Maybe now you'll see your worth, nothing." He raised his glass again, grinning as if he'd just given a speech. The crowd clapped awkwardly, unsure if this was a twisted jest or a public dismantling of my dignity. My stepmother, Celeste, flawless in her sapphire gown, touched his arm. "Charles, stop," she murmured, her voice quivering, not with compassion but with dread. I turned away, fighting tears, but phone flashes trailed me. My younger brother, Ethan, the heir apparent, looked at me with a mix of sympathy and triumph. "Lila, just go," he whispered. "You're making it worse." As if I'd caused this. Clutching my purse, I ignored the murmurs and pushed through the throng. Outside, snow fell gently, muffling the city's hum. I stood in the cold, breath unsteady, cheeks stinging, mascara staining my gloves. That slap wasn't just physical. It was 34 years of resentment distilled into one cruel moment. I'd never craved my father's empire, only his approval. Now, before 200 witnesses, he declared me no longer a Sterling. I hailed a cab, my phone buzzing relentlessly with notifications. Billionaire dad slaps daughter was already trending. By the time I reached my apartment, the video had millions of views, my humiliation now viral. I locked the door, collapsed to the floor, and screamed until my voice gave out. Staring at my reflection in the window, a bruise blooming on my jaw, I whispered, "You're free now. You're free." But the words felt hollow. Freedom shouldn't feel this barren. That night, as snow piled outside, I had no idea my entire life, my very name, was rooted in someone else's tragedy. The next morning, a sharp knock startled me. 3 precise raps made my coffee tremble. Hesitant, my heart still raw, I cracked the door open. "Miss Sterling," a calm, professional woman's voice called. "We represent your biological father." I froze. Biological father? Opening the door wider, I saw 3 people straight out of a legal drama. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair, flanked by 2 men in pristine suits. "Margaret Hensley, senior partner at Hensley and Burke LLP, she said, offering a business card. "May we come in, Miss Sterling? This isn't a conversation for the hallway." I wavered, then let them in. My small apartment, cluttered with paintbrushes and half-finished projects, felt like a confessional. Margaret sat at my kitchen table, hands clasped. My colleagues, Mr. Walsh and Mr. Lynn, represent Mr. Elias Thornton. The name meant nothing. "Who?" I asked. She exhaled slowly. "Your biological father, Miss Sterling. He's been searching for you for 35 years. The words didn't register. I laughed, half in disbelief, half in panic. You've got the wrong person. My father's Charles Sterling, unfortunately still alive and shouting at the world. Margaret glanced at the younger man, who opened a leather briefcase and set a slim file on the table. My name, Lila Sterling, printed neatly on it. This, Margaret said, sliding it toward me, is a missing child case from the Portland Police Department, June 1990. A 6-month-old girl, Nora Thornton. My stomach twisted. That's not me. Her eyes softened. Your DNA says it is. I stared, waiting for a joke that never came. Then she showed me a photo, a young couple in a park, holding a baby in a yellow blanket. The man had dark hair and emerald eyes. The woman had my smile, exactly my smile. This was taken 2 weeks before the kidnapping, Margaret said softly. Recognize the bracelet on the baby's wrist. I glanced at my wrist, where a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny train engraving gleamed. My breath hitched. No, I whispered. My father said this was a family heirloom. Margaret's voice softened, almost tender. It was an heirloom, just not his family's. Something in me shattered. The room seemed to collapse inward, and I sank into a chair. The man who'd struck me, disowned me, wasn't my father. My entire life, my family was a lie. Margaret opened the file, her precise fingers revealing page after page. Reports, faded photos, news clippings. On June 14th, 1990, you were taken from Laurel Hills Park in Portland, Oregon, while your nanny was distracted by a woman asking for directions, she began. I pressed a trembling hand to my lips. That's absurd. My mother, Celeste, couldn't have... Celeste Sterling, Margaret cut in gently, matches the age-progressed sketch of the suspect from 35 years ago. The FBI reopened the case 3 months ago after a DNA match in a genealogy database. That match was you. My voice broke. You're saying she kidnapped me? Yes, Margaret said softly. She and Charles Sterling falsified adoption papers through a shady agency in Mexico, bribing a clerk to backdate everything. Mr. Lynn produced a birth certificate, not the one I'd known, but a new one. Your biological mother was Clara Thornton, a teacher. Your father, Elias, is an aerospace engineer who built a leading renewable energy firm while searching for you. I stared at the photo Margaret handed me. Elias and Clara outside a modest home, holding me as a baby. My chest tightened painfully. I don't understand, I whispered. Why me? Celeste's voice echoed in my mind. After 3 miscarriages, I thought I'd never be a mother. The words hit differently now. Margaret continued. Your nanny, Ana Ruiz, confessed on her deathbed to accepting $50,000 to look away for 5 minutes, believing it was a private adoption. When she realized it was a kidnapping, fear kept her silent. Nausea rose in me. I wanted to deny it all, but the evidence was undeniable, laid out neatly before me. Mr. Walsh, the older lawyer, spoke kindly but firmly. Mr. Thornton never lost hope. He updated his will yearly, reserving a place for his daughter. That's you, Lila. His estate is worth over $2 billion, but he's not here for money. He just wants to see his child. Silence settled heavily. Tears stung my eyes, born of shock, grief, and the realization that my life, every memory, every moment was someone else's loss. Margaret's voice softened. He's downstairs, Lila. If you're ready, he'd like to meet you. My heart stopped. He's here. I couldn't move, my breath shallow. My mind looped he's downstairs. Margaret stood patiently, giving me space. The clock's ticking felt deafening. Wiping my tears, I whispered, Okay, I'll meet him. In the elevator, my reflection in the metal doors looked foreign, ghostly. When the doors opened, morning light poured in, nearly blinding. Near the entrance stood a man in a charcoal coat, tall and composed, his eyes carrying 35 years of sorrow. His silver hair caught the lobby's light. When he saw me, he stilled, and I recognized the green eyes from the photo. He didn't rush forward, just whispered, Nora? My throat tightened. I think so, I said, tears falling. He stepped closer, voice trembling. You still have the bracelet? I looked at my wrist, the tiny train gleaming. You gave me this? I asked, voice cracking. He nodded. Your mother chose it. She said you'd love train sounds. He covered his mouth, stifling a sob. For a man who'd built an empire, he seemed fragile. I wore the matching one every day, he said, hoping I'd see yours again. I moved toward him without realizing it. His embrace broke something open in me. He smelled of cedar and rain, like a home I'd never known but always missed. For the first time since that terrible night, I felt safe. We stood there, breathing together. When we parted, he wiped his eyes, smiling through tears. Your mother would have loved to see you. She passed 5 years ago, but never stopped believing you were alive. The words hit harder than the slap. She's gone, I whispered. He nodded. But she left you letters, journals, your nursery, untouched all these years. A sob escaped me. She kept my room? She wouldn't let me change it, he said, voice thick with love and loss. Every birthday, she left a gift, saying you'd come home to open them. I covered my face, tears soaking my hands. Everything I'd lost had been waiting for me. That morning, in the arms of a father I just met, I realized family isn't always who raises you. It's who never stops searching. 2 weeks later, my world shattered again, but this time it was their downfall. I sat in Elias's car outside the Ravenswood Country Club, where Charles Sterling, still hard to call him anything else, played golf every Tuesday. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. It's happening. Stay put. Inside, laughter rang from the terrace. Charles, pristine in his white polo, laughed with colleagues, Celeste at his side, poised with her mimosa. Then FBI cars arrived. Doors slammed. Agents in navy jackets swarmed. Charles's smile vanished, confusion turning to rage. What is this? He shouted as agents approached. Charles and Celeste Sterling, you're under arrest for the kidnapping of Nora Thornton 35 years ago, one said loudly. Gas spread, golfers froze, phones emerged, justice unfolding live. This is outrageous, Charles yelled, voice breaking as his wrists were cuffed. I raised her. She's my daughter. No, I whispered from the car. You stole me. Celeste sobbed, makeup streaking. We just wanted a child, she cried, as if that excused 35 years of lies. Love built on deception is a prison. As they were led away, the same elites who'd filmed my shame now recorded their ruin. I expected triumph, but felt only emptiness. Elias touched my hand. You don't have to watch, he said gently. I do, I replied. They took 35 years from us. I need to see it end. Charles's eyes found me as he was pushed into the police car, his lips forming, I'm sorry. I looked away. The world would know the Sterling's perfect facade was a lie woven from fear and deceit. That night, headlines screamed, billionaire couple arrested in decades-old kidnapping. In my apartment, I studied my reflection. I wasn't Lila Sterling anymore. I was Nora Thornton. For the first time, the name felt like mine. The court hearings turned my life into a whirlwind of headlines and testimony. Every outlet wanted my story, but all I craved was quiet and truth. Elias refused to profit from the pain. We're not selling suffering, he said. Instead, he took me to a modest coastal Oregon home. This is where your mother waited, he said, opening the door. The scent of lavender and sea salt filled the air, time frozen in floral wallpaper and a rocking horse. A faded photo of a baby, me, with my bracelet was taped to the fridge. My hands shook as Elias handed me a wooden box filled with envelopes addressed in elegant cursive. To Nora, for when you come home. I couldn't breathe. The first letter, dated June 14th, 1990, the day I was taken, read, My darling, if you read this, know I believe you're out there. When trains whistle, I hear you laughing. When rain taps the window, I picture you safe. Tears stain the page. Another letter said, Your father built you a toy chest. He polishes it every birthday. We celebrate you always. I clutched the letter, sobbing from a place beyond words. Elias knelt beside me, tears falling. She was remarkable, he whispered. When the police gave up, she kept sending photos to missing children's centers, saying you'd know home if you saw us. The nursery's yellow walls held tiny books, their spines worn from waiting. I missed her whole life, I said, voice breaking. No, Elias said gently. You're here now. That's what matters. I read each letter until dusk. each word a bridge across years of grief. The void inside me, carved by lies, began to heal. Though my mother was gone, her love had waited. Weeks later, life was a blend of freedom and loss. The media moved on, but I lived between two identities. Lila Sterling, raised in privilege and pain, and Nora Thornton, the stolen child. The court called me to testify. Margaret said I could avoid it, but I needed closure through confrontation. In the courtroom, eyes followed me. Charles, his arrogance gone, sat diminished. Celeste's hands trembled. "State your name," the clerk said. I inhaled. "Nora Eleanor Thornton." The room stilled. Charles looked up, a flicker of shame in his eyes. "Miss Thornton," the prosecutor began, "what do you recall of your upbringing?" "I was taught love had conditions," I said, voice shaky but steadying. Success meant compliance, affection was earned. I didn't know it wasn't love, it was control. Charles's jaw clenched. Celeste wept, whispering, "I'm sorry, Lila." I met her gaze. "My name is Nora." I continued, throat tight. "I thought my father's approval defined me. Now I know love doesn't crush someone's spirit. You didn't raise me. You trained me to fear failing you." But the truth found me. The courtroom was silent but for the stenographer's typing. Charles stood, ignoring his lawyer. "I gave you a better life," he shouted. The judge's gavel struck. "Sit down, Mr. Sterling." I met his gaze calmly. "You didn't give me life. You stole it." He collapsed into his seat, broken. Outside, the air felt cleansing. Elias waited, holding a coat. "You did well," he said. "No," I replied, taking his arm. "I did right. I was facing my past, stepping toward truth." 6 months after the verdict, Charles and Celeste were convicted of kidnapping, fraud, and obstruction, sentenced to life. Their empire of lies crumbled. The media dubbed it the Sterling scandal, but for me, it was freedom. I sold my Chicago apartment, unable to bear the city's echoes of my old self. Elias offered me everything. Homes, wealth, a role in his company. I declined. "I need to build something true," I said. So I opened a workshop in Portland named Clara's Hands for the Mother Who Never Stopped Believing. The scent of sawdust and varnish returned, not as an escape, but a tribute. Elias visits, watching me restore antiques. "You got that from her," he said once, smiling. Clara fixed everything. Toys, chairs, hearts. Each evening, I light a candle by the box of letters, their words a map to peace. The last letter reads, "If you come home, my girl, know your life begins not with what was taken, but with what you rebuild." I've memorized it, my guiding star. The mahogany desk I once restored for Charles now sits in my studio. Elias bought it, saying it belonged with me. I nearly burned it, but realized it represents me, the woman who turned pain into purpose. One day, Elias gave me a velvet box containing his matching bracelet worn for 35 years. "They should be together," he said. I clasped it beside mine. Two halves reunited. I'm no longer Lila Sterling. I'm Nora Eleanor Thornton. My story began with deceit and loss, but it ends in truth, forgiveness, and the quiet hum of a seaside workshop where each piece I restore heals a part of me. The life I was meant for is the one I'm building with my own hands.